Simic Flash is a pretty popular deck, and it's kind of expanded to incorporate other colors and maybe turn into Bant Flash with some Teferi in there. Regardless, this is a list that I first saw played into the top 1,000 of last year's Mythic season or MTGA season by teammate Chris Card Counter from Team Rankstar. Now, this is a deck that I saw him play. I asked for the list, and we went with it. And it's very, very intricate and surgical in terms of how you play it, but it is very, very rewarding when you finally find the right frequency and get your kicks with it. So here it is. This is Flashbang. So quite simply, we kind of know more or less how these flash decks work. We've seen them in the past, most prominently with Simic colors, Nightpack Ambushers, Frilled Mystics, etc. It's very simple. Basically, you're protecting your very small creatures that are very, very evasive, and you're typically playing on the back end of your opponent's turns so that you can maximize the protection of your creatures as well as getting the Brineborn Cutthroats to grow and grow and grow. It's a very frustrating deck for your opponent to play against because there's a lot of options for this deck to circumvent a lot of their defenses and really chip away slowly, as well as slow them down with the various counterspells and control measures. So we're going to go through the list and I'll tell you a little bit about the strategies. Now, we have 4 Siren Storm Tamers, 4 Spectral Sailors. These are your 1-drop blue flyers, and they are always backed up by 4 times Curious Obsession. In terms of the black color here, we've got 2 Disfigures and 2 Cast Downs, and I also have 4 Brineborn Cutthroats, 4 Warkite Marauders, 3 times Direfleet Poisoners. I've got 2 Dive Downs, 4 Spell Pierces, a solo Negate, and 4 Lookouts Dispersals. I also got a basic land package including both Dimir rare lands, the Shock and the Tap land here. So this is how this deck pretty much works. What we're going to do in this deck is essentially you want to be playing your creatures with an open mana or 2 that you can protect them with, be it with Dive Down, Spell Pierce, etc., to keep them on the board. Your Warkite Marauders are there to essentially nullify air threats as you just go through an attack. Most of the time, you should have some mana open to Spell Pierce, their removal options, or their Planeswalkers, or anything that might disrupt your board or give them too much tempo advantage. Cast Down is there to get rid of some of the bigger threats, and you always will have a Brineborn Cutthroat there to play at the end of the turn, counterspell, etc., and it'll just grow and grow and grow. It's not uncommon for the Brineborns to get, into 6/5s, 7/6 territory over the course of a few turns. Negate, Lookouts Dispersal, Spell Pierce, Dive Down, these are all great options for you to just make sure that your opponent is not really threatening you too much. And with things like Spell Pierce and Lookouts Dispersal, you know that they're never going to be playing on curve, at least with Lookouts Dispersal taxing your opponent an extra 4 mana to play their cards. With Siren Storm Tamer and Spectral Sailor, equipped with a Curious Obsession, on turn 2 you can start going ahead and getting some card cycle. Yeah, that's pretty much how it goes. Now, there are going to be some decks that might burn you down in the meantime, but I've had some pretty good matchups because of the sideboard. So why don't we just go ahead and take a look at the sideboard. So the sideboard is 3 times Aether Gust for red and green spells, 2 times Blink of an Eye. This will get rid of cards that are either stacked with counters or stacked with enchantments or whatnot, as well as just bouncing a card back to the hand to allow you to continue to attack reliably. I have 3 times Cerulean Drake. The 3 times Cerulean Drake is a phenomenal card, obviously against mono red because of the protection, but at the same time, if you're playing against a feather deck, this is an excellent card because they'll never be able to bounce through you with the Cerulean Drake. I have an extra 2 negates for longer, grindier games, as well as 3 times Noxious Grasp, getting rid of things like the Ceratops. The Ceratops is probably going to be the biggest bane on your existence, which a lot of people sideboard in to decks these days because of the blue prominence of either mono blue, which is slowly rotating out, or as well as this deck that's sort of rising to prominence with the flash mechanic. But that is definitely a card that you're not going to want to see. Finally, this is a little extra spice. This is the Crafty Cut Purse, and this was like almost like a throwaway card for so long until Field of the Dead and Scapeshift from M20 has sort of become a lot more prominent. You see these all over the place. I was playing today, I must have bumped into 3 or 4 different Scapeshift decks, and I wish that I had teched this in earlier. Regardless, this is a card that if you suspect your opponent is going to be Scapeshifting or creating a lot of tokens, you flash this in, suddenly everything that creature your opponent creates, every token is now yours. All the work they did is now yours. It is a great sideboard tech card against that particular type, but much like Noxus Grasp is really there to, hone in on 2 specific colors, Crafty Cut Purse is there as a meta choice because Scapeshift seems to be everywhere. There's not really any board wipes for me in this option that are going to help me. I was thinking about playing River's Rebuke, but what's the point of playing a River's Rebuke when I can save that mana, play Crafty Cut Purse, and just take all those creatures to my side anyways? Nonetheless, here's the deck. Again, the basic strategy for this deck is you want to be usually playing at the end of your opponent's turn. Unfortunately, Siren Stormtamer is not going to be able to do that. But if you're opening up Siren Stormtamer, next turn another land, you go Curious Obsession, and now suddenly you have an extra land open to protect it against a Shock, a Lava Coil, a Lightning Strike, a Disfigure, or whatever, because you've got a Spell Pierce. At the same time, your opponent is now wasting their turn trying to get rid of your small threats, and that kind of piles up over time. As you are collecting lands, playing creatures, things like Warkite Marauder, etc., you're dropping these creatures down on your turn, leaving mana open to disrupt your opponent's tempo, and every turn you're bumping into them for 2 damage, 3 damage, etc., and eventually it becomes to a point where by the time that they're able to pay for their creatures or actually advance their strategies, they are way behind, and you've got 3 or 4 creatures on the board, and they're now playing catch up because you have a wide array of creatures that are going to fly over top, and the Warkite Marauders are going to nullify a lot of their defensive tactics. This is the deck now. Also, a cool little combo here is the Warkite Marauder, which turns any creature into an 0/1 and which loses its ability, allows for you to pair this up with a Disfigure. If your opponent is blocking with something pretty big or has a fairly significant creature, even if they're not blocking, but it's an engine piece that they feel is important on their side, for instance, like an Omnath, you can fly in with the Warkite Marauder, transform the Omnath, and suddenly your Disfigure can go ahead and take care of it. Because your cast down can't touch it, so your Disfigure can. These are little things that you can do and work with it. Again, this is a flash deck, which takes, I'm actually short a card here. I forgot what it was. I accidentally might have just cleared a card out of here by accident. I believe it was a 3rd Disfigure in this card, is what I'm thinking. But I know it says 59 over there. I believe it was a 3rd Disfigure. I might have actually got rid of it by accident while I was clicking around. Regardless, that's the deck. So I hope you sincerely enjoy it. Yeah, here we go. This is it. This is the Flash deck. Now, as you progress wherever you are on the ladder, be it bronze, silver, gold, platinum, diamond, wherever, mythic, it's always going to be meta dependent. That's why the sideboard is so important and really can win you those best of 3s purely just by teching in some really good choices. The cut purse, the Crafty Cut Purse, at least in my situation, was literally because every 4th game or every 3rd game I was playing happened to be against Scapeshift. So if you can actually put that in your deck and really win the game with that, why wouldn't you? If you had a sideboard card that takes up 1 or 2 spots, that was really a hammer down to win you the game. It is easy money. Of course, at the same time, if your opponent is, if you're encountering a meta that is a lot different, go ahead and slide in the cards that you need. Sideboarding is such an important skill in best of 3 Magic. It is really, really, I mean, a main deck obviously is important, but sideboarding tech cards is what takes, good decks and good players to mythic ranks and top 1000. This has been a joy to play and learn. I'm by no means an expert on this, but should you be interested in asking questions about it, by all means, drop them in the comments. If you have any suggestions for more tech cards or metas that you're encountering that you want to know, what's a good tech card to throw in there, ask it in the comments. I'm always happy to answer questions and comments. At the same time, you can catch this deck in action on my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/watchflake, Monday to Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And it has been my pleasure. Thank you so much for tuning in. Hit that subscribe button. Honestly, it really, really means the world to me. Thank you very much. Be kind. Adios.